What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from the Quartering, and I definitely, wanted to respond to some of the things that Tim claimed about me yesterday. In particular, calling me the Young Turks, or the Young Turks of the right. But that doesn't matter. I need to get back to the actual issue that matters, and that is, this particular individual using Twitter, locking people out. People still remain locked out. There are dozens of creators that are either banned or still locked out of their accounts, and we need to continue to apply pressure. Now, part two of Timcast news reporter Shane Cashman's report came out yesterday, and after about 35 attempts at getting through it, I found the last couple of paragraphs were particularly interesting. They seem to address me specifically, Brittany, and other YouTubers, and deriding them, calling them names, calling them irrelevant, calling them like cancerous. And I thought, wow, what a great turn here. What an interesting turn. How the table turns turntables or whatever. So I'm just going to respond to the article, and in particular the pieces where he insults several other creators. The idea that Tim has not read this is absurd. Of course, he read this. And I will prove it to you. There are pieces of information that only Tim Pool knew about me that are in this article. So Tim absolutely contributed to this article, but it's not about Tim. Okay, it's about. Yes, I'm going to clickbait his name because now I know it bothers him, but it's also about his writer. So, I think you have this situation where I've been told that he is a, quote, gonzo journalist. Apparently that means you bore everyone to death with endless exposition in your articles, where a news story is like a book. Like 80,000 words is a book. But he calls creators, there are many paragraphs here. He wrote, "At this rate, I was getting personally attacked online for injecting myself into a story. I started to think that even if Eliza was a total liar, if she somehow schemed up this wild and elaborate lie that would have taken years to plan, it didn't warrant the level of attack on her nor anyone in her surroundings." What he's saying here, what he's admitting here, is that people were mean to him on the internet and therefore he no longer cared about the truth. That's what he's saying. People were mean to him online, so he no longer cared. And he doubles and triples down on that. So if you don't believe me yet, I will continue. This is when I started to realize that a lot of people making the most noise about her story were truly the useful idiots. They became tools of destruction rooted in absolute ignorance and disguised as moral authority. So again, he's talking about the YouTubers and the people on Twitter, I suppose, who are covering this. He continues, "There was that sense of doom again. He really wants you to know how he's struggling to write this while he stayed in her house. You know, if anybody's seen the videos about what it's like to hang out with her, there's one that leaked out yesterday, probably had a little bit of fun. But staying with her parents, not her, to be fair. And also, I'm not saying they hooked up. I'm just, I'm not. He's married, I'm sure, happily. Anyway, there was a sense of doom again, the sense of modern war, which is always grand and sweeping, not always as grand and sweeping as Hollywood. It starts as a sea planet, blah, 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 don't care. This very criticism could be levied at me, too. I have been under relentless and ruthless attack on Twitter. Oh, he's more about woe is me for merely reporting on the story. But I'm showing you all my flaws, all my concerns. I'm human. I'm naturally switched between objectivity and subjectivity, a toggle between reason and doom, hope and despair." So what he's saying is I'm no longer unbiased because people were mean to me online. So again, he doubled down on saying like, well, I no longer really care about the truth, right? Here we go too. Now here's where, again, he gets particularly personal about the YouTubers covering this, the people involved in it, the people commenting on it. He calls them leeches and all sorts of things like that. "We have encountered a gang of leeches here to suck at the skin of the machine that they can't fully comprehend the full scope of because they are so lost in their own narcissism." Or perhaps even worse, they are conscious of a symbiosis between them and the destruction orgy. Carrying torches and pitchforks and masquerading through the internet are perpetual trauma machine. Oh, he said the name. He said the name. These people, he's talking about, well, me and anybody else covering it or anybody else involved, are digital cannibals. They care more about their names getting lumped into stories the same way tumors grow. They worship fame. Now, I will point out, I can only speak, he's clearly, not talking about me specifically here, but anybody covering it. Shane Cashman has never spoken to me. He did not respond to a very normal DM I sent him a week ago. We've never spoken on the phone. He doesn't know me. He doesn't know a thing about me. I'm sure he also does not know a thing about the people he's calling tumors, leeches, cannibals, useful idiots, dumb, blinded by narcissism. These are the things that he has said about you, the viewer, if you can care about this, me, a creator, and everyone else who's covering this. And now the mask fully drops. I realized at this point it wasn't even worth it to seek quotes from these people because they merely exist in the distant margins of the entire story. But in their narcissism, they see themselves at the center of the story. Again, he's never spoken to anybody. He doesn't know me. He doesn't know you. He doesn't know any of the other creators who are covering this. These content creators, now he's talking about me specifically and other YouTubers, who live stream for hours and hours every day about her, had already said everything they had to say. They will probably read this and continue to speak out of both sides of their mouth. And here we go. Saying they don't want a war. That's a direct quote from me. The only way he could have known this is if Tim Pool showed him my direct messages, my private messages. The only way he could have known this at the time he wrote this was if Tim told him. So Tim absolutely had a hand in this writing. Absolutely. Okay. So for a guy that doesn't care about having this person on twice, who's totally irrelevant, even though they were on your show twice, irrelevant enough to be on your show twice, videos of her partying with your crew, you send out a journalist on site, pay thousands of dollars in travel and all this stuff, 80,000 words, none of it, all of this to say that she's irrelevant, right? On top of that, I find it pretty curious that he had room to write 80,000 words about this and couldn't spare a few words for quotes from people who are affected by her censorship. At no point does he mention anybody who's currently locked out of Twitter because of her narcissistic behavior, her false flagging. He's in on it. He's not unbiased at all. Maybe he never was. Maybe that's not what he claims to be. Maybe that's not who he is. Maybe he just writes opinion pieces, and that could be what this is. Clearly, it's an opinion piece. He's talking about me right here when he says, saying they don't want war, but also insidiously antagonizing the audience to believe that they have a firm handle on the whole situation. And here's where he said, and this is no shade at their audience. Yeah, guys, don't get mad. Shane, you're just too stupid. You're just too stupid to know any better. Idiots, bots. Shane Cashman's got it all figured out, though, after spending a day with this woman. And after not speaking to anybody. Well, I guess Tim Pool he talked to. But the audience most likely has real jobs and doesn't have time to spend sitting in front of a computer digging into the story as much as we all have in various ways. So yeah, guys, you're just too stupid. We all have been right and wrong throughout the year, certainly. But these content creators, as of this exact moment, have tripped all over their lynch mob brain as they perform pseudo-intellectual pole dances on their webcams. And now, as I started to look deeper into the entire smear campaign, which seemed to initially be rooted in genuine concerns, it made me sense that these people were screaming to be heard. Everyone's just doing it for clout. He's literally just doing the 75,000 word version of it's a PR firm. I take, look, he's entitled to his opinion. He may, believe everything. I believe that there are certainly things that probably happened to Eliza that are not good and not okay. But I'm not exactly sure why he took 9 paragraphs to dunk on creators, call us stupid, and Cancerous, call our viewers stupid, too dumb to understand. For my part, like, I don't want you to I don't want you to interact with Shane Cashman ever. I don't want you to go and give him a piece of your mind, because that will only prove his weird, warped perception of me. I didn't need to cover this story to quote unquote build my YouTube channel. I already have nearly 1.5 million followers. None of them were probably brought in. Hardly any of them were brought in by covering this. In fact, I lost subscribers over covering this. So this idea that I'm only in it for clout or whatever, what clout? It ended up leading to a very messy divorce from Tim. It ended up having our fans feel like they had to choose sides. Our viewers, feel like they had to choose sides. For my part, I'm not sure what you think I got out of this. Sure, I had some epic live streams about it. I did financially benefit from it, but I could have live streamed about anything. My live streams about this topic weren't exactly like massive. It's not like I had 30,000 people watching me. I had about the same normal audience, maybe a little bit more. But that was also fueled by, people wanting dirt on Tim versus the quartering and all that kind of stuff. So I think that, I don't think there's really any point if there is a part 3, which I don't know. He doesn't seem to indicate. You can see the flushing sound is, you hear Shane Cashman's credibility going down the crapper. Look, for 80,000 words, he never even bothered. He never even bothered. He never bothered to even ask anybody who is sure. Maybe he didn't want to, talk to me. But I mean, he could have looked at my Twitter files thread, which had irrefutable evidence of her timeline, right? He was fine to go and talk to her and her parents, who probably are so snowed by her stories too, and they just want to support their daughter. I'm not going to I'm not going to have a problem with a parent believing their kid. He alleges that she told him a name, but then that he didn't share it. And just that he found out that he lived in that area at that time. So I could name people that lived by me too. That doesn't mean they trafficked me. This whole thing was an absolute joke. And Timcast news credibility, I don't know. I was told the Shane Cashman guy was an animal and he was going to get to the bottom of it. But after all this, he's just really simping for her. It's pretty sad. Hope you enjoyed this video, though. If you did, make sure you leave a like on it. If you haven't yet, please do subscribe down below. I'm pushing hard for 1.5 million by April. I'm very close. I'm only, 900 subscribers away from the next, from 1.48. So I'd love to see you all join or subscribe today, and we'll talk to you again real soon.